Willkommen an unserem Kanal. Wie Sie am Titel sehen können, heute werde ich am Sprache sprechen. And the reason for that is that has got to be one of the #1 questions I receive through emails and text messages. How much language do you need in order to get a good job over here to support yourself? It's an important question, and so because it deserves a video all itself, here I am. And then let me also say that the reason this video is a little late in coming out is because my company is one of the very few in Germany that never shut down because of the corona restrictions. We have remained in continuous operation. However, we did send a number of our staff on vacations. And I mean vacation. I don't mean that as a pseudonym for we laid them off. No. We continued to pay our employees, but because we expected reduced sales, we sent a lot of our staff home. What we did not expect was for our sales to, in some cases, maintain themselves, in other cases, to actually exceed forecasts. And so I am working like the devil. I am working crazy hours, mostly by choice, because I choose to make my company succeed. So I'm a little bit late in getting this out. My apologies. And by the way, I have a Canadian colleague by the name of Lauren who handles most of my email traffic. She does a fantastic job directing people where they need to go, getting emails where they need to go, and staying on top of things. And I work very closely with her, and she emailed me a couple days ago asking me if I was still okay, if I had been taken by the virus, because she hadn't heard from me in a while. And Lauren, I am so sorry. I have been working, like I said a second ago, I've been working like the devil, and I have not been good at answering emails or staying in touch. So my apologies, and I'm going to do the very best I can to get that back on track. Thank you for your patience. But now that I'm here, let's get to it. Let me begin by saying that when I talk about language and I use Germany as my reference point, or German, the German language, that's because I live in Germany and I spend most of my day speaking German, so it's the first thing that pops in my head. But everything that I'm going to tell you in this video applies to all European languages, whether it's Latvian, Norwegian, Polish, Czech, doesn't matter. It's the criteria is the same, the process is the same. And the reason for that is because skill level in language in Europe is determined by the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, CEFR. If you go online and you type in CEFR and you type in whatever your particular country that you're interested in or particular language that you're interested in, you're going to get all kinds of information. You'll probably be able to get more information than I'm going to be able to provide just in this video. But this video I want to be a good starting point for you. Now, let's get into the fact that there are 3 levels of language in Europe. A level, which we'll consider as introductory, B level, which is intermediate, and the C level, which is advanced. These ABC levels are further divided into A1, A2, B1, B2, and yep, you guessed it, C1 and C2. Don't get confused, don't feel overwhelmed, because this is really a simple process and we'll be able to work this out very easily. It's just going to take a minute. So the A1 level is that level when you really know nothing about the language. For instance, if I were to study French, which I have never done before, right now I would be at the A1 level. I can give you a few words. So in the A1 level, I'm going to learn the days of the week. I'm probably going to learn to count from 1 to 20, probably be able to introduce myself and ask your name. That's it. That's as far as I'm going to be able to go. When we get to A2 level, you take that information that you learn, those really basics, and you start to build very simple sentences, and you start saying, my name is River. I am from Miami. I drink cola with lunch. That's about as far as you're going to go. You're not going to be able to sit down and hold meaningful conversations with anybody, but you're going to begin to understand the world around you. You're probably going to be able to read a bus schedule. You're probably going to be able to figure out which train to take to work, those kind of things. So A1, A2, basic introductory. That's all it is. The B levels, my opinion, are the more important levels. B1 is that level that is considered semi-fluent. When you're able to reach the B1 level, you are able to not only state your name or where you're from, but you're going to be able to give a little bit of information about your life. When I lived in Miami, I would be able to tell you where I went to school or what I studied at university. I'll be able to have basic conversations with my friends. and I'll be able to communicate effectively within the workplace. There's a reason that B1 is so important, and that's because in order to get any meaningful job in Germany or France or wherever, you're going to have B1. That's what employers are going to want from you. Now, it's already an advantage that you're a native speaker for English, because that is a very highly sought after skill here. So if you can show that you can speak basic German or basic Italian or basic Croatian, you're really going to have a leg up in the hiring process. People understand that you will learn the language better here once you're here and living. They know that in a year or 2 years you're going to be very good with your French or your Swedish. What they need, in that case, what they need is to know that you're an expert in English. So B1 is the minimum you need to consider going after. It's the minimum I recommend for anybody. The B2 level is considered fluent. Now, this doesn't mean you're native fluent, but you are able to have a conversation on virtually any topic. You can go into a restaurant, order a meal competently, chit chat and flirt with the waiter or waitress. You're going to be able to do really more complex thoughts. You're going to be able to express more complex thoughts. And when you go to the library, for instance, you're going to be able to explain to them what kind of book you're looking for and maybe even why you're looking for it. Maybe you need it for a work-related project, what have you. B2 is the natural progression from B1, and that should be the goal for anybody that wants a really good paying job. Now, let me point out, when you get to the B1 level and you're speaking your language every day at work for, as I'm doing, 8, 9, 10 hours every day, you cannot help but get to the B2 level rather quickly. You're not going to be able to stop it at that point. It is natural. But that's a great thing. That brings us to the C levels. The C levels, as I mentioned earlier, are the advanced levels. C1 is when you have a mastery and command of the language. This is when you are able to talk about virtually any topic in depth with cultural nuance. At that point, you should be able to understand German humor, which is not the same as American humor. But a lot of that humor is based on, common cultural experiences within the German people's history. So there may be a particular brand of soap that was very popular in the 70s that you and I know nothing about, but maybe today they're making a joke about that soap. If you don't know the cultural reference, you're not going to get the joke. When you get to C1, you're going to be able to get that joke. You're going to be able to really express complex thoughts well. And that's why C1 is mandatory. If you are to go to any type of higher education, from university onward, you must have a C1, and they will check. You're going to have to prove it. You're going to have that certificate. And I'll explain in a moment how to get that certificate. But if you want a job that is going to pay really well, if you want a professional job as an accountant, as a nurse, as a doctor, as a lawyer, what have you, C1 is your goal. The final and highest level is C2. Realistically, I can't imagine that I'm ever going to get there, or maybe that you're ever going to get there. You reach C2 level, you are speaking German or French or Icelandic as a native, as though you were born in this country and raised here and educated here. Now, once you're here 15, 20 years and you actively engage in improving your language, you might be able to reach it. For instance, my best friend lives in Hamburg, and he has never, not once, stepped foot in the United States. But his English is better than most university students I know. It can be done. It can be done. Now let's take a second and talk about how to get the certificate. And I'm going to speak specifically to German, because German, whether you're in Austria, Germany, or Switzerland, is governed by one institute called the Goethe Institute. I'm going to put that web address right here at the bottom. The Goethe Institute, you would call them and you would, or go online, and you would make an appointment to sit down for the A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 examination. You'd make an appointment. You would then go to this appointment, which, be prepared, is going to be 4 or 5 hours long, and you're going to take 4 different tests, or I should say 1 test divided into 4 sections. The first section, you're going to be able, I hope you're able to, you're going to be required to read a newspaper article or something from a book, and then you're going to have to answer questions based on what you read, to show not only that you were able to understand the vocabulary and grammar, but that you understood the meaning of what you were reading. You must score a minimum of 60% on that section. The next section, you will write 2 emails and 1 short letter. Not only are they checking for your grammar and your spelling, but I'm going to let you know that they're also checking to see if you know the format for writing emails and letters in German, because it's not the same as we do in America. It's not the same as in English, and they're checking for that. So in this section, you must also score a minimum of 60. The next section requires you to listen to, I think it's 20 minutes of audio recording of a conversation. At the end of the recording, you must answer a certain number of questions based on what you heard, and you need to be able, obviously, to understand what you heard. As in the other 2 sections, you need to score a minimum of 60% here. And the final section is an actual conversation. You and one other student will sit down with 2 moderators, and you will engage in a 20-minute conversation based on a topic that you will be given ahead of time. So you're going to be able to prepare a little bit. During this conversation, you need to be able to listen clearly, you need to be able to respond clearly, and what you say needs to make sense. I will tell you personally that I am right about at the B2 level. I'm just about where I'm fluent. Definitely semi-fluent, definitely. Just about to B2. So what I have done is I've already made my appointment for B1, which will be in June because all of the appointments are already filled up till then. And I'm also going to take the B2 later in the year, maybe around October or November. So my goal is to finish this year with both my B1 and B2. Having said that, that I think determines the scale for what kind of job you're going to get. If you only have an A1 level, you really can only expect an A1 level job. What can you do with an A1 level job? Well, you could probably flip burgers. You could do manual labor. You could probably work at a construction site, maybe, I don't know. But let's be honest, if your skill level is down at A1, that's the kind of job you're gonna get. If you get to B1, you're gonna get a job that's gonna pay. You get to B2, you're gonna have a good job. You get to C1, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. So there is a direct correlation to your skill level in the language and your paycheck. Let's keep that in mind. Now let's talk for just a moment about how you learn the language, because this is the secondary question that I get the most often. Yes, in the United States, you can go to a language school or go to the local library and get language tapes or go online and study, using an electronic course. There are a lot of ways to do it. I have known people who studied in the United States first and then came here, and I've known people who have come here and learned the language here in country. I was kind of in the middle. For my last few years of prison, I actually had German grammar books, and I was studying those grammar books and picking up basic vocabulary. It gave me a really good foundation, but I had nobody to talk to or speak to or hear the words pronounced. So as much as I had information in the back of my head, I really couldn't use it. So funny story that I'll save for another time, but funny story that my first few days in Germany, when I was in Hamburg with my best friend, we went to a bookstore and I bought a copy of Harry Potter in German and I tried to read it. My German was terrible at the time. I maybe knew 100 words of German, maybe, and had trouble stringing them together and couldn't pronounce most of them. So when I tried to read this book, out of 20 words, I maybe understood 3 or 4. That was it. And it didn't make reading the book very fun, and I ended up putting it aside. When I got my work permit, and I mean the day that I got my work permit, I went looking for a job. The very next day, I had a job. Another good story for another time, but I ended up getting a job that required me to speak German, but they so praised or valued my ability to speak English that they hired me knowing I couldn't speak any German, assuming that I would be able to learn it on my own. Well, what ended up happening, and this was a brilliant decision by my statewide manager, she determined that I needed to start working directly with German customers from the first day in German, even though I didn't speak German. And I was literally forced to start learning German very, very, very quickly. And what I ended up doing, because I was really embarrassed to make mistakes, I would tell these customers or these guests that, hey, my German, Entschuldigung, aber mein Deutsch ist noch nicht perfekt, aber es ist bei mir sehr wichtig, dass ich mein Deutsch verbessern. And so we made a game out of it. And when my regular customers, to this day, even 16 months later, they still come in and try to catch me with certain German words, or they've written things down on a napkin, grammar that they'd like me to improve on. And I tell you that 16 months later, I'm virtually fluent. In 16 months. Now, granted, that was in country. Now, another thing that really helped was I went into a bookstore in Frankfurt, Germany about a month ago. I was visiting an American who is moving here. And I bought this, the first Harry Potter book. On my way back from Frankfurt on the train, I read the first 2 chapters. I went from not understanding 3 or 4 words. 16 months later, I'm understanding 18, 19, 20 out of 20 words. And I so much enjoy it now because I don't have to translate as I read. I just know what the words mean. That I went out and bought the next one. So I'm actually ready to start reading the next one, and I'm almost finished with this first one. Now, I did not know it at the time, but Harry Potter happens to be a very popular way for people to learn a foreign language. I did my homework, and I found out that Harry Potter, all 7 books, are available in every single language here in Europe. If you can name a language, it is available in that language. So I really recommend picking that up and trying to read through it for pleasure. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do it at first, but after you've got 6 months under your belt studying the language, pick it up and try it because you already know the story, it's entertaining, and it's a fun way to learn. And I have learned a heck of a lot from reading this book in German. I tell you all the time, in every video that I have, I always make it a point to say, if you're not happy with your life, if you're not happy with your situation, do something about it. And I mean it, but it's on you to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. If you just wait for your circumstances to change, you're going to be waiting an awfully long time. So people ask me often, what's the first thing I should do? What's the first step I should take if I'm thinking about moving to Europe? This is the first step you should take. You should start thinking about, where would I like to live in Europe? Where do I think I'd fit in? Let's say that it's France. At that point, what you need to do is you need to start learning French, but you need to start learning it like you mean it. And let's say you have a year left on your probation. Let's say you have 2 years left of parole. You spend that time devoted to getting the basics of your language. Now, granted, you're going to learn that language much, much better once you're in country. But this is a concrete step that you can take today. This is something that you can begin today. And you can start taking back control of your life. Because I understand that your freedom, your physical freedom, is restricted by the sex offender registry or parole officer or your conditions of probation. I understand that. But nobody's going to stop you from studying a language. And this is something that you can do now. So stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a survivor. Start looking for solutions to your problems. This is a distinct step forward that you can do right now. And I highly encourage you to do it if you are considering moving to Europe. So until next time, let me wish you health in this time of Corona. Let me wish you safety. And let me wish you freedom. Freedom, freedom. Take that step. Until next time, viele Grüße auf Deutschland. Tschüss.